Okay, let's let this catch up. We're good to go. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hello, welcome to this video. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity, oneness, the highest levels of love light. We're going to see how this video goes. We're filming in the middle of Mercury in retrograde, and I've had quite the challenge this week. As you may have seen with some of the bloopers that I've had happen, I did a video with one of my sisters and dear friend Jess from Yothera, and we had quite the adventure getting onto the computer. So I have yet to share that. I'm excited about sharing that with you guys. This video is a decoding, if you will, of one of the most recent writings that I have shared with you guys. So if you've ever watched one of my videos or read some of the things I've posted and gone, what is she talking about? Then this video is for you. Most of the things I write are meant to be felt, just like living language. Our language, and I'll just go into that briefly, is supposed to be a living language. It's supposed to be, whenever I'm sharing something, no matter what form of communication that I'm using to share, it's the energy behind the words, the hand movements, sign language. It's the energy that is felt to read in between the lines. And so most of what I say, speak about, etc., and even if it's spoken in ancestral language, toning, light language, everything is sound, light, frequency, and vibration. We are sound, light, frequency, and vibration. So from my perspective, what I'm sharing is that. So I invite you to watch this video as well as all of my videos with an open heart and an open mind. Some of what I'm about to present can be taken as a literal definition of what it is that is being shared with me. However, much of this is, again, vibration and frequency. And so I have been shown that the words that I use are a little bit like a crystal. So if you think of a crystal that has lattice work to create the crystal, and you have one thing and it essentially vibrates into a color, it vibrates into a code, it vibrates into a harmonic, a chemical exchange. That would be another definition of what I'm sharing, how I'm sharing it. So the other thing I wanted to share was the information is from my higher self. It's from my perspective. So everything I share, again, is my own perspective. And so what somebody may feel or interpret of what I'm saying can oftentimes be based on their own perspective. So living language will generally meet the person wherever they're at. Or sometimes it can go deeper and assist in activating a certain feeling or vibration from that person that they have, that they are able to access, or that it opens up for them to access. So that's how a lot of this works. So if you've ever had a Reiki session with somebody or an energetic healing session with myself or someone else, or if you've listened to these before and went, wow, that makes me feel really sleepy or feel really happy, or wow, I feel tingly. This is all a living language. So I'm gonna wet my whistle. I'm just waking up. So let's begin. I'm gonna put my blue blockers on because I'll be looking at the computer a lot. And I'm gonna be sharing the screen with you guys. So the other thing I wanted to share was a lot of this is basically tapping into the words. The word will hold a different meaning. So it's a different layer, different meanings at different time zones, in different time frequencies, in different vibrations, tapping into certain patterns. I put some notes here because I actually recorded part of this the other day, and then last night I had so much more information come through about what I had written. I decided just to start over. So I'm trying to stay a little bit more organized because I was all over the place the other day. So I'm tapping into different bandwidths. I covered that this is kind of like a living crystal, right? Technology. Um, Shamans, through the years, shamans were the storytellers. We would have stories passed down from generation to generation to generation that would tell about history and about magical things happening in science and all of that. And we've lost that oral storytelling tradition. Yet we all have access to it, and all of us have it within our DNA. We hold it within our own frequency. I have a tendency to bring that through from my own DNA, from my own history, we could say, as a shaman, or from the shamanic experiences that I've had in this lifetime. And we have a tendency to tie the word shaman with magic. And while that is true to some extent, magic is science. So a lot of what I'm about to share with you is science based, even though it is tying, so it's bridging together the science and the esoteric so that we can have a little bit more of a visual tool to feel into and auditory. I wanted to give an example of what this word, how this works, and then I'm going to delve right into it. So for example, let's say I was telling a story about Jane and Joe going for a walk. As I'm telling the story, it's the energy behind the story of Jane and Joe going for a walk. It isn't just about Jane and Joe going for a walk. When I'm sharing these words, I'm tapping into who Jane and Joe are, where they were coming from before they started this walk down the street, where they are going towards. So sometimes we're tapping into the past, sometimes I'm tapping into the future, right? As well as the present moment. What is Jane thinking while she's walking with Joe? Maybe Joe is remembering something and Jane is thinking about the bird sitting in the tree, which the type of tree that the bird is. I'm tapping into that as I'm sharing the story. So it's multidimensional, it's quantum. And that's it in a nutshell. So it's past, present, and future. And essentially it's the reading between the lines. So let's get started. I'm going to do a little screen share. I'm going to read what I wrote. And if you want to follow along, great. If you want to skip this and just get to the meaning, I did post this on my blog. So you can check out carrieYvonne.com and go into that a little bit. Let me go in and share the screen briefly. And again, if you want to fast forward through this and just get to the juice, whatever you feel guided to do. I'm going to hit share screen and I'm going to go into the Google Keep and we're going to begin. I'm labeling this different things. Building trust is the beginning. I'm actually have added a lot to this, but let's get started. There is an opening, a truss, and I'm going to go back after I read through this. I may skip some parts because this will be video 1. I won't get through all of it. So I'm going to read it all the way through quickly, and then I'm going to go back in and break out the codes a little bit. There is an opening, a truss. A truss has been built. Seek to establish the linear way. Wave of projection, long wave. Beam it out into your environment. I see beams of a truss. The wheel has spoken. The glass cage has been lifted. There are many words that we use that have been used for other purposes. We seek to bend the rules of word usage to establish a new connection with the seemingly linear, now beyond the ordinary, linearity. Lights are low, moving in stereo. Let us expand perception for a moment. There is a quasi, and guys, by the way, please excuse my spelling bloopers. I have not gone back in and corrected any of this yet. All of it. There's a quasi calculation that is being rebirthed, remembered activation, antificated. Opposites attract. The lines have been crossed, and here we are. Separate the tie, bow, bow. The notes have been buried, like the bow of a boat. The eclipse has left the building, D-I-N-G, and is on its way. Total eclipse of the heart. We understand the mathematical concepts and keys you tap into seem out of your understanding. This is what I was thinking, like, really? Your think tank. But we assure you they are most conducive to your skill set, for you never realized the numbers quite in the same way before, filled, filed, quilled with quite the same fortitude, for within your glossary, your equations equate quasi-quantifications, hammer out certain diagrams, diaphragmatic presentations, risk-taking statistics worth the risk, value nets, if you will. Dot the I's and cross the T's, ice and teas, iced tea. Just one symbol can change the entire value system. A whale of a find, sonar. Leave the concepts of the mind at bay, for we are inlay, underscore, interweave. A Nubian, new based landscape, if you will, to intersect, to be established, to establish, a wave potential of beingness. And I asked, why me? Your scoreboard is free of the judgment game, so this allows the freedom for you to work out these rhythmic game sequences with open-ended fortitude, balanced right on time. Open the space that says we have arrived. For in this, you pick up on the charm. A whole roll of information, film is at your fingertips. Trip the wire, trip the switch, inner alchemy has spoken. I'm going to stop on that note. There's so much more. And again, if you feel guided to maybe read this in the big picture, essentially, invite you to go back and look at this on my blog post, which I posted in chunks on Instagram, and I post it in chunks on YouTube. And I know for some people, the chunks is all that you want. But if part of what I was shown is that sometimes we hone in on one word and we zoom in and we have that tunnel vision. And so we're going to do that today, but I'm going to zoom out as well and take a look at the bigger picture. So we're going to go back to, I'm just going to hit share screen, the beginning here, building trust. So there's a lot. And I'm just going to start with this first paragraph. There is an opening, a trust. A trust has been built. And if you've ever heard of, there's this company called Trust Bridge that, but this is a play on words. Seek to establish the linear wave of projection, the long wave. Linear is not literal, by the way. Yes, we can do this in a linear fashion. We can build this bridge. So it is literal. We can essentially build this trust. But it's the long wave, it's coherence, it is bliss. Beam it out into your environment. So beam out that long wave of bliss, which I talked about in a previous video that I did where I have the hexagon as the main, and I believe it's called the heart codes. So I invite you to go back and check that out because a lot of this alludes to that. Most of what I write about has to do with our heart codes, our heart encodement, our heart finding that long wave that is stability, bliss, balance, 0 point, neutrality. And I'm using these words interchangeably, although they aren't all exact. So I'm going to show you guys a picture here and go back into this sharing. So if I go on to Truss and I look this up on Wikipedia, of course, I had talked about a moment ago the long wave, and later in this writing, I talked about the bow. Well, if you look on Truss, this picture comes up with the bow of a boat or with a boat, and it makes me think of the bow. Now, ironically, this is from Tor's ancient ships. Look at the horn. Look at the way the ship looks, and I think that is highly symbolic of what's being spoken about here. But also, if I go into the definition of truss, remember we're building a truss. A truss is a structure that consists of two force members only, where the members are organized so that the assemblage as a whole behaves as a single object. And later in this, I write opposites attract. So it's magnetic is part of this. And I wanted to talk about this truss. And so how I was shown was this is what we're creating. If you think about this as a crystal, our energy, we're becoming more crystalline, our diamond frequency from carbon to crystalline. All of that has a structure, and this is what it looks like that we are creating as light workers. So if you break the words down even here, lateral, wind, bracing. We are bracing, you guys. We're bracing for a sway. We're bracing for the changes that are coming in the winds of change. And this is also, I'm hearing the wind up. I'm also hearing solar wind. You know, solar wind is having, the solar energy is having a strong effect on us. We're creating stringers, string theory. We're connected in strings, right? We're creating the base, the floor beams, and moving it up and connecting to the higher frequencies, the higher energies, the higher bandwidths, if you will. Okay, so I'm going to go back in and just share this really quick. I'm just showing this as an example because the words, all words hold this lattice work like a crystal. So these are the struts. We're connecting in and we're creating a portal. We are the portal. We are a walking portal, creating trust and trust through one another, through our energy. We're connecting in, we're creating, we're docking into a deck. So we're creating this structure in, and this is also what I'm being shown as our bodies, you guys. So if you think of the tree, the true tree of life, the tree of life, right? These 12 layers, the 12 dimensions, well, it's beyond this. You guys, this is multidimensional. There aren't just 12 dimensions, but that's another video. If I go back into Truss and I put Truss bridge, okay, we are creating the brace, okay? Basically, this whole entire, it's a bridge whose load-bearing superstructure, a structure of connected elements using forming triangular units, okay? And I'm gonna stop. You guys can hop on the computer if you want and play too. I mean, if you want to nerd out with me and see what else your eyes are drawn to. But essentially what I'm being shown is that we're creating this bridge and we are the superstructure, okay? This is done, there's tension, but the tension is helping to create change. And this is from compression, okay? Now, compression is a multidimensional word. Compression is actually more of that compressing that assists us in implosion, our heart, long wave consistency. And it's both in response to dynamic loads. And of course, we all know what a triangle looks like, right? A lot of this is built through triangles and sacred geometry. And because of this, it's creating a strength in our reality. And there's so many more places I could go with this, but I'm going to go back to the writing. So I'm going to share screen again and go back into, so the wheel has spoken. Oh, and it's saying beam it out into your environment. So it's almost like I was shown as we walk in trust, as we walk in faith, that we are on the right path, that we're doing the right thing because we're operating, we're projecting from that long wave and creating compression, which is gravity from one perspective. And again, please, I'm not a scientist. I'm just sharing the information I get. And then I look at what I'm shown. And essentially we're beaming it out. We are the beams, the light beams. The wheel has spoken. The spokes on the wheel. We are the spokes on the wheel. The glass cage has been lifted. So we've been living under this glass ceiling and it's been lifted. We've expanded it out. There are many words that we use that have been used for other purposes. And again, if we look at this from a lower echelon, they've been usurped and flipped and reversed for that inversion of reality. We seek to bend the rules of word usage to establish a new connection with the seemingly linear. So none of it's linear. We just think of it as linear. Now, in this moment, beyond the ordinary linearity. That's also a show, I believe, Beyond the Ordinary. I think I like that show. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. Lights are low, moving in stereo. I'm not going to go into this song. It's a song by the Cars, which rocks. I'm not going into that song because I have another write-up that I've done that I will be going much deeper into the song. My friend Kat and I were essentially kind of taking apart the lyrics, because you guys, I write this down and then I see it and I get so kind of sometimes drawn into it in a linear fashion that I can get tunnel vision about this. So my soul family, and I will reach out and say, hey, what is this? Are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing? What do you see when you hear these words? And we play. So my dear friend Kat and I have been talking on the phone a lot this week and just kind of going back and forth. And she has really shined a lot of light on some of the words that I thought, oh, I didn't even think about that. But yes, that ties in with this word. So we help each other out, right? Building the bridge, right? We're bridging by working together. And so what's happening is the moving in stereo, the biggest message I got about this was its sound, right? Stereo is that sound that's always there. And we're moving through sound. We're moving through light. We're moving through vibration. And that again is another video. So let us expand perception for a moment. There is a quasi-calculation that is being rebirthed, remembered, activation, antificated, opposites attract. So I'll stop there. Quasi we'll go into. Opposites attract was that song. Do you guys remember the song from Paula Abdul? And there was a video in like the 90s, maybe it was the 90s, and she was dancing with that cartoon cat. And it was called Opposites Attract. And it's like, who'd have thought we could be lovers is one of the lyrics. And I was hearing that play in my head. Now, if we think of the opposite ends attracting, there's a lot. It's the pine cones kissing, which I talked about in my previous video with the hexagon, on YouTube. I'll provide the link. It's Dan Winters talking about basically coherence. It's basically we are drawing to us. We're actually what's opposite. We are beginning to balance it out, is what I'm being shown, and we're magnetizing. It's magnetizing and working together. It's like this division in some regards, not all regards, but in some regards is actually beginning to stabilize because we're creating these struts, right? We're strutting with our stuff. And we're creating these struts that are creating a chemical balance within our bodies. Everything we're talking about here, as above, so below, as within, so without. So it's inside of us, it's in the earth, it's energetically. And we're remembering this. It's being rebirthed within us. And this is giving us that expansive perception. So we're going to break down the word a little bit with antificated. Now, of course, we could go linear 3D and say, okay, does that have anything to do with Antifa? Well, some of this is literal, and it is a play on words. So remember, our perception and where we are vibrating will somewhat control, or our perception will then lead us to a certain conclusion. So again, the more open-minded we are, the more we zoom out and we're not just having that tunnel vision. So if I go into quasi, first of all, there's a quasi calculation that is being rebirthed and remembered. As if, just as if, as though, in real comparisons. So there's a lot. This could go into so many different different definitions. So I'm going back into quasi and we'll just look at all of these here. Having some resemblance, usually by possession of certain attributes. So it's close to it, right? There's a lot more to quasi, by the way, and I'm not going to go into all of it. And this is just, again, one piece of the puzzle. So we'll pause that just for a moment. So I'm looking up the word for antificated. So antificated, essentially, there's a quasi calculation that is being rebirthed, remembered, activation, antificated. So if I go to antificated essentially is a portmanteau if I'm saying that right, a combination of words, which I do all the time in my writings. And it's anticipation, right? Pontificated, activated, and anticipated. So it's spoken about, it's activated, and we're anticipating it. So this has been anticipated. Also, if I go to, I don't really look up a lot on Urban Dictionary, but for this one, it did resonate a little bit. The process of rejecting a word, ideal, or belief by a single person. It's like, wait a minute, we're not going to believe that necessarily anymore, but we are going to combine some of this. And I'm seeing this as a combination. Again, it's that bridge. And I do believe, I'm going to pause this just for a moment because it gets bigger than this. So I'm going to hit stop share, pause for a second. I'm going directly back into screen share. Because if I look at the bottom of what I've written, I put up anticipated, and I wrote all the things out, but it's also used in computer science. Antification over compact over spaces. So for any of you computer science people out there who are like, yeah, antification, I'm still figuring that out. And it's hilarious because I am the last person that would ever be looking at, but antification over compact overt spaces. This is extreme code, literally computer code. And, you know, guys, I want to just kind of share a little bit with that as well. This is living language. So if we look at a computer, and there's some of us that are a little bit caught up in the artificial intelligence, AI, all of that story, that's a particular timeline. That's a particular reality. We do not have to feed into that reality. That's a choice. I also would like to add that not all artificial intelligence has a negative, is negative. There are people that are kind of extreme right now. And again, we're bridging that together. It's like, oh, it's terrible and it's being, or it's great, it's going to help us. There's got to be a middle line. It's all about the intention that we're putting behind something. Are we working and intending to work from the heart? Are we giving our power away to something artificial? Are we utilizing a part of it to assist us, but recognizing that everything is meant to be organic? So there's so many places we could go with that. But computer science is a language, and it's actually a living language. And we have assigned to it our language, and we've attached it to an inorganic meaning. So I would like us to kind of rein that back in and recognize that computer science, we can take this and use this for our own technology, our bodies, the mechanics of the earth, the solar system, physics. There's a lot that needs to be married and merged here. So I just wanted to kind of give that as a little bit of a precursor, because a lot of this, what I'm talking about, does tie in with computer science. So that's something I'm still in the process of going through. All right, the lines have been crossed, and here we are. Separate the tie. So separate the tie. And bow again. So there's that bow, the bow of a ship. Okay, untie ourselves from some of the things that we've tied ourselves to. This has to do with the shape. Don't get so tangled up. But I know that there's more here, and the lines have been crossed. We'll get to that in just a moment. The eclipse has left the building, and I kept thinking of Pink Floyd, and that's Dark Side of the Moon, all of that. Building, build, D-I-N-G, and is on its way. All right, let's pause just for a moment, because this in itself was like, what is going on here? This is just crazy. So there is this crossover. There is this essence. We have to get out of fear about everything. We can't fear artificial intelligence. We aren't supposed to, this isn't something to be afraid of. Yet this isn't something that we need to accept into our reality as that's what we want to take over, and it's smarter than us. It isn't. We've been conditioned, or they've tried to condition. And I say they with love because we're all connected. So we're just being invited to see, and I'm seeing that, let's move past that for this conversation and get out of our belief around it. I'm not condoning one or the other. What I am being shown is that we're really meant to use living architecture. A lot of, like, for example, for our advanced spacecraft, it's made out of what I was shown is spores. Like, it's living material. It isn't some hunky clunky machine. Now, granted, in one timeline or in one reality bubble, in one matrix, in one dimension or several, that may be true. There is this machine-based clunky technology, but we're moving away from that, and we're working on coming back into working with our environment as a living technology. Our bodies are living technology. We can regrow limbs. We just haven't really remembered how to access that aspect of our own technology. And science is able to do that organically. However, there's been in the inverted system, so to speak, again, this is not necessarily literal, there was that desire to put power in machine technology. And even the word machine has certain energies associated and attached with it. So we're being invited to step away from that inorganic artificial intelligence, for example, and to go back into our intelligence, right? I'm hearing how great thou art, artificial intelligent, thou art. I love it. So that's something we're being invited to do. If I go into what I wrote, which was there's a quasi calculation that is being rebirthed, remembered activation, antificated. The lines have been crossed, and here we are. Separate the tie. The notes have been buried. The eclipse has left the building, and I broke down the word building, and is on its way. So I was hearing total eclipse of the heart, of course. That total eclipse. So let me go into, I broke down NG, building. And here's what I found. Building, angular module. A module is a mechanism to group components, directives, pipes, and services that are related in such a way that can be combined with other modules to create an application. An angular application can be thought of as a puzzle piece, where each piece or each module is needed to be able to see the full picture. Sound familiar? If we apply this to us as light workers, as we apply this to information, as we apply this to our DNA, even though we're doing computer speak here, NG modules are containers for a cohesive block of code dedicated. Now, I invite you guys to see this as the human body, and I invite you guys again to see this as us, dedicated to an application domain. Domino, domain, dominion, dimension, a workflow, or a closely related set of capabilities. They can contain components, service providers, and other code files whose scope is defined by the containing NG module. Defined, how far it can go, what it can see, right? They can import functionality that is exported from other NG modules and export selected functionality for use by other NG modules. And let's just kind of play here for a moment and go into this link and see where it takes us. Eclipse is the software. So I'm going to just kind of go back into what I wrote for just a moment. So while you look at this, the notes have been buried and the eclipse has left the building and is on its way. So this workspace, I mean, we're tuning into each other. It's an integrated development environment used in computer programming. Okay. Now, I have yet to go into all of this. It's a free and open source software. Isn't that cool? So this is, you guys, really key here. Open source, not closed source, not inverted, open source. For when I think of open source, I think that all things can plug into it because we are connected to source. Our true source, our true code, our DNA, our remembering and activation, we're plugging back into that. We're not plugging into this artificial timeline. It's, again, flip it, reverse it. We've gained this. We've regained this composure, which is a musical understanding. The notes have been buried. Now, you guys, the notes have been buried. This is a musical reference. This has to do with money, values. This has to do with listening. It's here now. Let's use it. And the eclipse has left the building. So this is a whole breakdown. I will do another video on this because I haven't had a chance to necessarily dig deeper on that. Okay. So we're going to go back to this and move back up. So that, you saw how long we could go into Truss and how much we could break that down. So this whole section is a whole other wormhole. We understand the mathematical concepts and keys you tap into seem out of your understanding, to say the least. Your think tank. So it's out of my think tank, but we assure you they are most conducive to your skill set. For you never realized the numbers quite in the same way before. Filled, filed, quilled with quite the same fortitude. For within your glossary, your equations equate quasi-quantifications, hammer out certain diagrams, diaphragmatic presentations, risk-taking statistics worth the risk, value nets, if you will. Dot the I's and cross the T's, iced tea. Now, I'm going to just kind of give us a little space here. Just one symbol can change the entire value system. So this whole written word, if I say just one value, one symbol can change the entire value system. I was shown the arrow in algebra, is it algebra? And how if it's pointing one direction, it's less than. If it's flipped, it's more than. Just that one little thing can change the entire meaning, value system. Now, this is so quantum. We are that arrow. We are the technology. We are the value system. One person. Think about Einstein. Think about, I could go on to so many different people. Think about Gandhi. Think about Siddhartha. Think Buddha. Think about, of course, Jesus Christ, right? One person can change everything. And I'm not putting, by the way, any of those people in the same category at all. So let's get out of any judgment or linearity there. Think about some of the great philosophers of the world. Think about Shakespeare. One person. And so we are this person, and we are recalculating our reality. Now, if I take this a little deeper, though, I do say that, and you guys, I'm doing this, you can do this. I can do this, anybody can do this. So I'm seeing that the quasi-quantifications, these what it is it's a parallel meaning. So I'm tapping into quantum computing, essentially. And with this, and they're basically hammering out, which there's also, that's a play on words as well, because the hammer is an anvil shaped, right, instrument. And that has to do with Thor's hammer, which is a whole other can of worms. But let's go ahead and play just for a moment on risk and value nets has, I think, to do with statistics. Okay. I'm going to go a little backwards here. I was really like dot the I's and cross the T's, and I was seeing the rapper iced tea. This is how this works, guys. So I'm seeing the wrapper iced tea. And of course, I'm like, okay, I'm rapping. This is my version of a rap. I'm rhyming, I'm rapping, I'm tying in. That's what rappers do, is they just, tie in all these different components. Wouldn't say that I'm as linguistically quick as some of the rappers out there, but so that's talent. That talent they're using for their own cup of tea. This is my cup of tea. And everybody has their own cup of tea that brings them joy, that they can tune into, that is their quantum quantifications, that they are tapping into their source code. We're all being invited to find that, which means being present because it's right there. It's already there. And if I go in to look at, because I was like, iced tea, the wrapper, we could just keep it that. That is one layer. Done. Sold. And I'm out. That's it. I'm crossing the I's, dotting the T's. I'm wrapping this out. I'm just sharing this information in a rhyme. However, if I dig a little deeper to the other level, to the next level, worth is a play on words. Risk-taking statistics has to do with the future. We're talking about time travel here, guys. We're also talking about, I think that's how you spell it. We're also talking about money. We're talking about statistics, analyzation. Time travel means like future projections, okay? And if I take this down and I look at iced tea, of course I'm going, well, this is interesting. Iced tea. Thinking of vanilla ice baby now. Iced tea is the eclipse. That's this link. Eclipse software. So that's something I'm still learning about right now to share. This is fun for me, guys. I nerd out on this, obviously. So what I really want to play with here, though, is the whole iced tea. I was just like, and what happens, you guys, for me is I'm drawn to thinking for certain words really stand out. I will hear them over and over again, or it will show up in front of me. Like I could have this whole experience and I could go out and somebody's going to offer me some iced tea when they never offer me iced tea. I don't really drink iced tea. So my point is it'll show up for me again and again so that I see it, so that I pay attention to it, so that I look for it. You guys, that's how synchronicity works. That is quantum. That is multidimensional. That is being present and recognizing that the universe speaks to us through everything. So if I go into and explore a little bit more about this iced tea, I loved finding this. This is, and I don't know if you guys can see this. I am on, I guess you'll just have to go and pause this, maybe screenshot it and then zoom in if you're really nerding out with me. I also have provided these links on my blog. So you can go on my blog, click on the link and follow real time if you really want to nerd out. And, I would be surprised if you do that. But so the following is an algorithm for making a cup of tea. Maybe I can make this bigger. Let's just play really quick. Yay, I can. I am learning so many new things. This is so fun. I don't want cookies, so I don't know how to minus that. But anyways, so it says the algorithm for making a cup of tea. The following: put the tea bag in a cup, fill the kettle with water, boil the water in the kettle, pour some of the boiled water onto the cup, etc., etc., drink the tea. As you can see, there are certain steps that must be followed. These steps are in a specific order, even though some of the steps could be rearranged. For example, some can be reversed. Please keep in mind some of the steps can probably be changed, but you can't move them far away from where they should be. Obviously, you can't boil the water, you can't boil the water last. Isn't that interesting? I love that. That's such a really good example. That's what an algorithm is. Keep it simple, starseeds. So I love that. It's a series. It's basically we are looking at everything's an algorithm. So keeping that in mind, that's was kind of funny when I looked up company. And so guys, I was curious also, I wanted to dig a little bit deeper because I know that there's more to this. So that finding that iced tea comparison was just a perfect example of another layer. Again, you know, we're telling a story. So the story is, how did it feel? How did it look? Where did it come from? Where is it going? What are the characters thinking? What do they look like? You know, what is the environment that the characters are walking through? Why are they there? So we could go into so many different details. I'm going to share screen again. And if I dig in a little bit, I look at iced tea on Wikipedia because I'm thinking, all right, this is computer programming, is a build an integration project launched by Red Hat. I love it. It's not white, it's not black, it's red. And it's the Free Software Foundation. So I guess we could dig a little bit there. But even if you scroll down, there's a lot of information. It's a project that provides a harness to build a source code using free software build tools. Actually, I just want to check that out really quick. Oops, it's not secure. That happens a lot when I'm looking at this stuff, by the way. But let's just check this out real time. And I've got too much open, so I'm going to close it so that my internet catches up, especially with Mercury retrograde right now. Oops, I clicked on the wrong one. Let me pause this. I'll get this right one of these days, guys. Oops, I think I froze it. Well, there we go. Now, you guys, I just want to share, when I looked this up, I had all of these ahas. So my friend Kat had, I'm going to share next one of my previous writings I wrote back in September. I don't remember if I posted it or not. It had all this information about Rush and the cars and moving in stereo and discernment. And the message that was coming through is that we're breaking down a lot of the old systems. They aren't working anymore like they used to. And she goes, Carrie, discernment. I'm like, yeah. She goes, it's discernment, C-E-R-N, meant. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're breaking that down. Guys, not to go into a place of fear or to assume that that is a bad project. From one perspective, there's people out there that believe that it is. From another perspective, in scientists, they believe that it's a positive thing. I'm going to stay neutral and just say it doesn't matter, because ultimately we are coming together as a light worker team, creating this platform in which the old systems can be utilized for good. It's that simple from my perspective, by the way. So this old story of us against them is an old story. It's an old script, JavaScript, right? So what I was shown here, if I go in and I look at Bootstrap had come up, and I'm like, Bootstrap, which of course made me think of this whole Pirates of the Caribbean thing, which is a whole other flow, but Bootstrap Bill, I think is his name, Bootstrap. Anyways, so if I go in and I look this up, Bootstrap, and I look, this is tied in with my, I'm currently on iced tea again. So let me make this bigger if I can. I always laugh at the names that computer programmers use because, you know, it's, here we go, Pulse Audio, right? Fedora, so the hats, right? It's the numbers that they use are numbers that I see all the time. So they were trying to make, and you guys, this is my understanding. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, and it doesn't matter. This is all code for the code. We're decoding that. So if you go through, they were trying to make a free platform. They couldn't do it, etc., etc. So this is all connected, and I lost my Bootstrap. Okay, let me pause this for a second. Okay, I found it. Bootstrapping refers to a self-starting process that is supposed to proceed without external input. Sound familiar? Us? We don't need all this artificial intelligence. We don't need somebody else telling us our value. We don't have to plug into an outside source. It's all within. The cars, I didn't go over the, I get goosebumps. I didn't go over the words, lights are low, moving in stereo. It's all inside of you. So fun. And this is essentially, in computer technology, the term usually refers to the process of loading the basic software into the memory of a computer after power on or general reset. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, doesn't matter. That's where pulling one's up by the bootstraps. Oh, this is so funny. I love this. Philosophy of the mind. Oh, this is, you guys, this is what I'm talking about. The attempt of the mind to analyze itself in an effort, or is an effort, analogous to one who would lift himself by his own bootstraps. And it's a metaphor meaning to better oneself by one's own unaided efforts. The metaphors for a series of self-sustaining processes that proceed without external help. You guys, I mean, if this, I could just easily say, we're doing this on our own. It's not like we need some savior or some outside program. It's all within. And so what, do we need to even say any of this stuff? No. But this is, I want to just back up for a moment. Everything that I'm sharing, it does go out like a crystal lattice work. So what I'm seeing is that we've all upgraded our bodies, the earth, our creative capacity, computers, our technology, science. There is so much that is at our fingertips right now that we're not hearing about. I've written down all kinds of things that are going to come out of the woodwork. They're there. They've just, all we had to do was turn over the rock so that all of it could come out. Now, this is also, we could say that the mainstream green screen, the matrix that's being projected at us, I've written about this, through the media and through the stories that we're all buying into right now because of the election. That's another video. Essentially is a distraction. It's a distraction from us pulling our bootstraps, you know, pulling ourselves out and recognizing the changes are going on here. That's where it's happening. We are the ones that are changing reality by what we choose to. Are we going to plug into our outside source, or are we going to plug into our own inner source, our own true technology? So I'm going to go back up. So I think that kind of covered that little sentence, right? Whew. Got goosebumps. Okay. So for within your glossary, your equations, equate, quasi-quantifications, hammer out certain diagrams, diaphragmatic presentations, risk-taking statistics worth the risk. And if I go here, so funny. I'm going to talk about a little bit about diaphragmatic equations worth taking the risk. Our diaphragm is where we're not just speaking from here, we're speaking from here. Our whole diaphragm. Our diaphragm holds our center for will, our willpower. It's our own inner power that then brings it up and allows us to speak with truth. It allows us to feel our gut feeling. So this is from that aspect, from that presentation. This is a diaphragmatic presentation. It's from the depths. It's from within, okay? Risk-taking statistics, worth the risk. So worth is a play on words. Risk has to do with values, weights, and measures. It has to do with, we could say gambling, but it's not. It's like literally statistics, okay? Value nets, this all has to do with money and finances, but we are changing all of this. And that's one or two or three different layers of this type of communication. However, also this has to do with the game Risk, which again, my friend Kat was like, oh, let me tell you about the game Risk. I had never played it. I didn't know what it involved except for dice in a cup And it's kind of has to do with, we'll look it up, but essentially it's taking over domains. It's like monopoly for domains. So this is also a reference to, we are changing how all of that is usually happening. It used to be through war. It used to be through, you know, arms deals, by the way. And again, there's so much that has come through for me about arms and arms deals. That's a whole other thing. We're changing that. We don't want war. We don't need war to boost our economy, because money is magic that's been based on a system that others have been telling us this is the value, this is what it's worth, and this is how we are playing this game. And we're taking that back saying, you know, I don't want to play that game anymore. That doesn't work for me. It's not worth the risk. In addition to that, so this is worth the risk. Us taking a chance and trusting ourselves and building these bridges and connecting from within and connecting with our soul family and our soul tribe and our star brothers and sisters and our earthling brothers and sisters and Mother Earth is worth it. We are playing the game risk, which isn't risky. It isn't. It's worth it. The value is higher than us being afraid to take a chance on us. Okay, that's the simplified version. If we go a little deeper and I go into this whole statistics, and you go into diaphragmatic, optics, aperture. I have talked about the aperture so much in my writings, and I just found this last night, which was really exciting. The role of the diaphragm is to stop the passage of light, except for the light passing through the aperture. Thus, it is also called an aperture stop. If it limits the brightness of light reaching the focal plane, or a field stop or flare stop for other uses of diaphragms and lenses. The diaphragm is placed in the light path of a lens or object, and the size of the aperture regulates the amount of light that passes through the lens. The center of the diaphragm's aperture coincides, and I'm sorry, you guys, I didn't make this bigger. You can see that. So fun. The center of the diaphragm's aperture coincides with the optical axis of the lens system. Do you guys see that? The rays going through the lens, which of course makes me think of Dark Side of the Moon, which I had been hearing earlier in this particular reference. I write in this writing cones. You'll see that later in the writing, and this is like the cones of an eye, okay? And what I wrote was their diaphragmatic presentations, risk-taking statistics worth the risk, okay? It's worth it to help us to regulate the light, all right? Iris diaphragm, that's a whole other can of worms. I love this visual right here, if you guys can see that. So we're opening this up. This is what it was before. And do you see that flower opening in the center? Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger. The 9-blade iris. Now let me just tell you, I've been writing about 9 all the time lately. You know, a lot of times we've heard people channel the 9, and the 9 has come through a lot. But 9, I was writing, gosh, something about Star Trek, Deep Space Nine. And this is ironic that it's a 9-blade iris. And so if you look at it, that opening, this is essentially what we're doing. So this was controlled, there's the flower, and the flower is opening into the circle in rotation. So I'm gonna pause this just for a moment. And so what I'm going into, I'm just going to read through here. See this shape right here? I will show you guys what my husband brought home the other day from playing golf. The diaphragm, it talks about this number of blades. Straight blades result in polygon shape, which I think is really important right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, excuse me. So that's 5, says finite number of straight segments. We'll come back to that. But what I found interesting is that the curved blades improve, so can be guessed by counting the number of diffractions. So the number diffraction spikes converging from a light source or bright reflection. So for an odd number of blades, there are twice as many spikes as there are blades. But look at the diffraction spikes. Isn't that beautiful? Diffraction spikes are lines radiating from bright light sources, causing what is known as the starburst effect, or sun stars in photographs and in vision. They are artifacts caused by light diffracting around the support vanes of the secondary mirror in reflecting telescope or edges of non-circular, etc., etc. This to me is huge because I've written so much about artifacts lately, as well as starburst and sun stars. In fact, I've been wanting to call, instead of keep it simple star seeds, I've been wanting to call it star flowers and starbursts. Okay. So this whole sentence in itself is multidimensional. And I hope you guys are following. So oops, sorry guys, I thought I hit pause. I thought I hit pause recording and I was hit stop share. I don't really know what I hit. Am I recording still? I'm sorry. I was so enthralled by what it is that I am recording. I'm just seeing this. It's just so fun, you guys. The iris and the eye, our eyesight is expanding. We're seeing more. We're zooming out. And we're creating this prismatic effect that is essentially creating so much light. We're creating a massive bridge, truss building effect. And I could go into Thor's hammer. I could talk about light and thunder and what that represents. That might be completely different set of information. So now I'm going to jump into diaphragmatic, right? Having to do with acoustics. So we just jumped into diaphragmatic having to do with iris, the eyes, the diaphragm, multidimensional, different parts of the body. What are we seeing, right? Are we allowing ourselves to see the bigger picture? What is our perspective? What's being reflected back at us? What are we magnetizing? What are we, are we shedding more light on it, or are we blocking that source, right? Our open source code, or are we plugging into something that isn't open source? So I'm going to go into the other version of diaphragm, which is acoustics. And of course, remember in the beginning, I wrote lights are low, moving in stereo. So in the fields of acoustics, diaphragm is a transducer, which has a whole other multidimensional meaning, intended to interconvert mechanical vibrations to sounds, or sounds to mechanical vibrations. It is commonly constructed of a thin membrane, I love that, or sheet of various materials suspended at its edges. The varying air pressure of sound waves imparts mechanical vibrations to the diaphragm, which can then be converted to some other type of signal. So this is microphones, the human eardrum. Conversely, a diaphragm vibrated by a source of energy beats against the air, creating sound waves. Air horns. Remember I said earlier the front of the boat looked like a horn, and I knew that was symbolic, and this just takes me into more of why it's symbolic. And I've been writing things about the cones of the eyes and also the ears. Anybody else had some things going on with their ears last week or 2 weeks ago? I did. The jaw, the ears, the ringing in the ears. I think a lot of us have had, I can't seem to minimize this now. There we go. So this is found, these acoustics, this diaphragm is found in the human eardrum. I'm trying to get on the eardrum so you can kind of see it. And it separates the external from the middle. And so everything in our body is working together. And it's important to see it's converting transducers. So a diaphragm is a transducer, okay, which is a device that converts energy from one form to another, converts a single in one form, or I'm sorry, signal in one form of energy to a signal in another. You guys, this just is so much fun. It blows my mind, truly, because it's all so deep and so multidimensional and so symbolic. Again, as above, so below, as within, so without. So we're talking physical body right now, okay? We're talking about the changes that are going on in our own technology, okay? However, what is also being presented is having to do with physics, what's going on in technology with algorithms in the computer. This is the algorithm of the universe as our source code, okay? And it's the frequency domain is being upgraded. Higher value, worth the risk. Okay, that I'm going to move on because I could still break down that one sentence, and maybe I'll come back to it later. Okay. So if I go back to, so those are, and this again, this will all be on my website. Just one symbol can change the entire value system. I talked about that with algebra. A whale of a find, sonar. So here we are back on sonar technology. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to explore this more because I have been talking a lot about whales, and my friend who's been helping me decode this a little bit, she's been here, seeing a lot about whales. I just want to share that, well, I am being guided to talk about the whales. Okay, so let me just finish this sentence. Just one value symbol can change the entire value system. A whale of a find, sonar. Leave the concepts of the mind at bay, for we are inlay, underscore, interweave, a Nubian new based landscape, if you will, to intersect, to be established. That wasn't a play on words. I mean, that wasn't a misspelling. To establish a wave potential of beingness. Okay, so we're going to stop there. We know what the one symbol can change the entire value system means. Guys, one of the things I've been seeing is not only monetary value systems changing, but math. A lot of the mathematical concepts that we've been taught to believe in, or that people have believed in, whether they be physicists or mathematicians, I guess those are very similar, scientists, there's some things that they're going to or already have, technically they already have because the future is now, that are going to change and rewrite the codes of our reality. And it's all going to happen very soon, from my perspective, from one perspective, or it already has happened and we just aren't hearing about it because of all the external noise and dialogue. I am being guided to talk a little bit about the fact that these technologies that have been used against us, and this is a very lower frequency or 3D, 4D, even though it's a multidimensional perspective, it doesn't matter. It's not having the same effect, the same pull on us anymore. So we're going to be hearing maybe about some of this, but again, we're being invited to get out of fear and step into our own power, our own sonar, our own source. So we're going to end, I'm going to finish this and then I'll do another video. So the whale of a find, sonar, leave the concepts of the mind at bay, for we are inlay, underscore, interweave. Now, some of that is really common sense. Okay, I'm really being guided to delve into underscore a little bit because sometimes I think, oh, it's an underscore, it's an underline. But this is a play on words as well. So we are underscore. we haven't, we'll start with the 3D, 4D kind of falling apart, or that mentality of us against them. We're the underdogs. They didn't account for us in the score. Okay. The score, we are settling the score. This isn't like fight. We are like, nope, we're evening things out. We're balancing out the weights and measures. And they, whoever they are, didn't account for that. They didn't see it coming because they're not able to look and use their time travel technology to look into the future as much, because we've changed the way that the whole program is working. We've moved from closed source to open source, and they can't see because there's too much that's unpredictable. And that's from one perspective. So I'm going to share on that note underscore, because it's fascinating for me. Now you truly know what a nerd I am. If I share the screen, underscore, look at the symbols, the circle, it's underlining, right? And these are Unicodes, a low line, a low dash. It's a segment of text, okay? It's used in a manuscript. And it's markup or combines characters. I mean, this all is a play on words. Combining a low line, okay? Talks about the languages in these other places. This just has to do with, it's used, basically, that's what we are. We are the hyperlink, right? That's the underscore. That's us. Programming conventions. I mean, there's so much here. This is what we are. There's that symbol that I was showing earlier, that I was talking about earlier. Ooh, there's more in Chinese. Let's see what that is. I love that. Proper name mark. Huh. That's fun. Okay. So sorry, I'm starting to lose my steam here. I'm almost done. All right. So, but there's also more to the underscore. It also has to do with music. Did I do that again? I did. You guys, thank you for your patience. I thought I hit pause recording. All right, so I'm still recording. So underscore, generally defined as a piece of background music. I was looking for something specific. You guys, this is also an underscore. This whole bottom is the underscore. It's behind the floor beams, the stringers, right? So we are the underscore. You guys, I'm sorry. And so we are the inlay. We're woven in. It's the background music. You guys, it's that we are the energy behind the energy. This is we is who's communicating with me, my higher self, my quantum versions, your higher selves are always in your background as well. We are the material behind the material, the immaterial, okay? So it's an interweaving. Now I'm gonna just pause, maybe. Oh, so funny. This is the last part. Okay, so the last portion was talking about a Nubian landscape. Now, I do know that Nubian, I'll go to just a minute, but I wrote New. Now, I could go into so many different places. I was thinking chemical elements, and I was thinking about computer technology. So we'll just stick with the basics, and I'll go a little deeper perhaps next time. But if you go into new technology, am I sharing? I'm not. Screen share. So I am in new, N-U. I'm gonna make this a bit bigger so you guys can see it. Lots of fun stuff. It's the letter for the Greek alphabet. What I really liked in here is this. A measure of constringence in lenses or prisms. Didn't we just talk about lenses and the prismatic effect and the struts on the bridge of the truss? Oftentimes they are of a triangular nature, right? Constringent, so let's go back really quickly. If we look at that again, right? A measure of constringence in lenses or prisms. I do believe I copied and pasted that in my writing. But if I click on constringence, a measure is physics optics, a measure of a material's dispersion, which I know what that is, but variation of refractive index with wavelength in relation to the refractive index. And if you go into dispersion, right, you just follow the rabbit hole, guys. That's what this is all about, is to have fun with it, right? The degree of scatter of data. Remember the starburst? Okay. The separation of visible light by refraction or diffraction, okay? Which I love that, separation of visible light. So it's like then I love this too. In medicine, it refers to as the removal of inflammation. So ironically, right, if I go back up, it's like we are removing inflammation from a medical perspective from our bodies, also from our reality, politics, social, economic. Of course, it might get more inflamed before it goes away, of course. And just one symbol can change all of this. So it's a new-based landscape, right? It's behind all of this. It's the removal of inflammation. It's shining the light on it. It's scattering the light. We are scattered all over. Okay. And last but not least, we are establishing a wave potential of beingness, of being in this space of the long wave. Established means axis point, node, if you will, new and node. And also in this framework, see, I guess it doesn't stop recording. It just stops sharing. I kept hitting stop record, but it's not working. So, okay. So last but not least was the Nubian landscape. And there's so much more to this, you guys. It's so much fun, but we're going to, I'll just share this last portion. The Nubian landscape is pretty interesting because if I went into Nubians, which they are a tribe, an ethno-linguistic group of people who are indigenous to the region of Sudan and southern Egypt. And they are believed to be one of the earliest cradles of civilization. And I thought that was really cool. So it's a field of linguistics. They're talking about, basically their linguistics refer to the way of life of an entire community. So, I mean, I love that because when I'm speaking light language or the words that I'm speaking, it's not just one simple, it's also multidimensional. So we could go into so much with this particular tribe. And it's just really cool. So also it's in the desert, it's very, very beginning of our culture. So, or not necessarily our culture, but the culture of many. And, oh, I know what I was hitting pause share. So if you go back and just look at some of these things, I don't know if it just started a brand new video or not. Okay, well, I'm going to end on that note. I was almost done anyways, but in love and light, guys, have fun playing. I have a feeling that this is a brand new recording. But in case it kept going, if you've made it this far, congratulations. And I'm just going to say that in case this stopped recording, this will either be the end that I'm adding to the video. Yep, we'll end it that way. And there's so much more. So just to kind of cover, the Nubian doesn't have to be taken literal. It's African. It has to do with Egypt and Sudan and the Middle East. It's this portmanteau, P-O-R-T, port of all this conversion And this isn't literal of like religion or anything like that. It's basically this combination of all of these different cultures in their language and in their peoples. And you know, we could tie this into so many different layers. So that's just one piece of this whole puzzle that I'm sharing with you guys. We are the puzzle. We are the grids. We are the light workers. So everything that I share in my writings and in my light language and all of this is to help us connect the pieces of the puzzle in multiple layers. So have fun, you guys. I will be doing part 2 next if you're interested. In love and light. Namaste.